Hello and welcome to Red, White, and Bi.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Ash.
And I think it's our 14th episode.
It is our 14th episode.
Very cool. We've kind of been doing an every other week thing for the last little bit. We just kind of have a lot of things going on. We've got a lot of life in our life, but yeah, we're still at 14, even considering that, and it's exciting.
Yeah, we'll be trying to get back on track in a few weeks, but we have just a lot of stuff going on.
Might be a little bumpy for a minute, but yeah, we're committed to this. We definitely are committed to 20 because they say magic things happen at 20.
And we missed you.
I missed this. I missed talking to you about politics because obviously I can't talk about it at work or with friends or whatever. Like, who can you even talk to about what's going on in the world anymore? It's too dicey.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to have you who, you're just an open-minded person and you talk about all kinds of things with me that I might not know about. And I'm grateful to have family that see things my way, I guess.
Yeah, we can talk about anything, and I like that so much. We talked about cuttlefish at length today, and you were kind enough to let me kind of like nerd out and talk about their chromatophores and why cephalopods are aliens.
I think they are aliens. I think, and I had a dream about this, and Hannah was my spirit guide in the dream. I think maybe things people think about space are actually going on in the sea, and maybe they're happening both places, but I think it's possible that there are aliens below us.
Well, I think that the odds are highly skewed in favor of aliens being in the ocean. We know that there's life on Earth. We know that there's intelligent life on Earth. And don't quote me on this, but I feel like I've heard that the bizarre DNA of like octopus and squid and cuttlefish and like other cephalopods like that, like scientists don't understand where it comes from. Like it has a taxonomic place in like the tree of life or whatever, but that it's not particularly like related to anything else. It's like this bizarre extraterrestrial sort of origin.
So that's why me, a person who just asks all kinds of random questions, is kind of like, how do we know God isn't the sun or a giant octopus?
We don't
know these things.
So worship what makes you feel close to your origins, I guess.
And in my case, nothingness without end.
Nothingness without end. I don't agree per se that the sun is sentient and like a god, but I can see why people worship it. Like, it is the source of life on our planet.
If the sun is sentient, like some new scientists have theorized, I think it's God. I'm just saying that right now.
If the sun is sentient, it is God. I think that's the end of the conversation. If the sun is sentient, I don't even know what comes next in that sentence. But yeah, it's in charge.
Well, and here's the thing. Nobody can prove it's sentient, so then you're back to agnosticism. But
I don't think that's true. I think it's possible that you could prove something is sentient once you start looking.
Well, if they prove the sun is sentient, I'm on board for it giving me what I need to survive. And
well, yeah, I mean, I think if something that large and that powerful and packed with like world-ending energy turns out to be sentient, I mean, that is God. Like, it's not a question. Anyway.
So now that I've gotten Hannah to maybe worship the sun, we're going to move on to some topics for this week. So there was an article from Politico, and there's a new Democrat playbook from a left-of-center think tank called Third Way, and they recommend blacklisting 45 words. They call it the blue blacklist. And these words are things like triggering, microaggressions, environmental violence, dialoguing, othering, holding space, subverting norms.
My personal favorite, birthing person.
Food insecurity, housing insecurity, patriarchy, and I think I probably forgot privilege, which seems like a big deal.
I am ready for the word privilege to kind of calm down.
Die a violent death. Involuntary confinement is a good one.
Is that supposed to replace imprisonment? Do we think?
Yeah, I think so.
Why is it? I'm sorry. Is it not imprisonment? Why? I have so many questions. Where to begin?
And then Black and Indigenous people of color, is that what it is?
Also known as BIPOC.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. A person who immigrated that's fun.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is on here. A person who immigrated.
And cisgender.
So, the beginning of my list of questions has to do with, how these words, some of them I haven't even heard used before, even in my, liberal days or leftist days. I don't understand when it became problematic to say imprisoned or immigrant. These are real words with real definitions that shouldn't be offensive. To leave a country and go to another is immigration.
Yeah, so maybe a person who immigrated, maybe they are thinking a few different things. Maybe they don't want any distinguishing between those who came here legally or illegally. But to your point, to say an immigrant doesn't really do that.
You already don't have to talk about their legal status if you just say that they're immigrated or an immigrant, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And imprisoned, I don't know what else you would call that, especially if you have a problem with for-profit prisons, or you have a problem with locking people up maybe who would be better served by a mental health institution or something. It's a legal term. Imprisonment is a legal term that we use for more than just convicts.
And how do they put that again?
Involuntary confinement.
Involuntary confinement, to me, should be applied to people that are, kidnapped. Mm-hmm. To me, that seems more like Elizabeth Smart.
However, when we talk about somebody being kidnapped and held against their will, we talk about the word imprisonment.
Yeah.
So if you have a big problem with the way that convicts are involuntarily confined, I don't understand why that's different. But whatever. So this is an interesting list. I was not aware that political parties had official buzzwords and words that they no longer wanted to use. In such a concrete printed way. This is really strange for me to see.
Yeah, and to me, I would take this with a grain of salt because this is a suggestion from a think tank. Just like people freaked out about Project 2025.
Yeah, still waiting for that to happen.
Exactly. This is, I would say, unofficial. I think probably it'd be really good advice to nix a lot of this language. I don't think, that the Democratic Party will take that advice. But if they did, could you really trust that they were changing? I think to be a strong player going forward for the rest of the country who overwhelmingly voted for Trump, people like Sydney Sweeney back in her jeans, it's the country's not as woke as it was maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think objectively we can say that we're seeing some of the consequences of these terms, this kind of tiptoeing language, whether or not you think it's appropriate or disheartening or a good thing or a bad thing, go woke, go broke is becoming more and more apparent. Was it Bud Light that did the transgender person on their cans?
Yeah.
Grossly misreading their audience. Some of the woke things in Disney and Hollywood have really backfired. I don't think it's shocking that it's not going over quite as well as some people would have hoped. And that happens, right? You're playing to a minority, and maybe that's honorable. I'm not here to make a judgment on that, but when you play to a small fraction of the people, you should expect it to be unpopular.
Question for our audience, because I would love to hear your opinions on this. Why do you think corporate America, when I think they should exist to make money, why are they so leftist, is my question. I can see companies like Comcast who are in bed with government, but why in the corporate world do I get the sense, every job that I take, for example, that everyone who's like a manager of my corporate job is a leftist. I would love to know.
Can I give my answer right here, right now? I think it's like twofold, and I hope I'm not too tipsy. By the way, I'm drinking citrus and gin again. How about you?
I'm drinking this terrible mixture of chocolate bourbon and Coke. It's the worst thing I've ever had, but I'm just going to stomach it.
We need to refresh our bar. We don't have any plain brown liquor, and I find myself stuck with a lot of gin. But anyway, hopefully I can remember my two-part answer here. I think the first part is that leftists are loud. And I'll be honest, like, as a layperson, and also just as like a person, just a regular person, it's like, it's hard for me to gauge how many people agree with like a woke or leftist agenda. It sure sounds like it's most people. I think their voices are the loudest. I think you're hearing them like through the media, like radio, podcasts, movies. Every day when I drive home from work, there are 2 or 3 overpasses that have weekly, if not more often than that, protests on the overpass with big signs for all the commuters to see every day. I think it's possible that this many people feel this way, but I think the more likely answer is that they're just louder.
Yeah.
I had a coworker the other day say that she didn't want to talk about politics. And that to me is like, well, I think one side doesn't want to talk about politics and the other side doesn't shut up about it. And that's biased, and I understand that, but that's been my anecdotal experience. So I think the left is louder. The other thing I was going to say, to try to keep this short, is that the upper management administrative parts of companies are college educated. And I think colleges are extremely one-sided in their political beliefs and their worldviews, which is a shame because higher education should teach you how to think, not what to think. And I don't know that that's been true in our lifetimes. Maybe in our lifetimes, but not in our education lifetime.
I know we're off on a little sidebar here, but
shocking.
I will say that the past 2 weeks have been interesting at my job. I will not say where I work or what I do or anything like that. But I saw a post from our company that mentioned tariffs. So I tried to say, hey, like, I think that people who support Trump, whether they understand tariffs or not, are going to be supportive of his tariffs because they like him. And I don't know that we should post about it. And my boss agreed with me. And like tried to edit the post to try to make it sound like less political, and then said, no, I think it just is better if we take it down. I then the following week went to like share some stuff from social media from the main page, and the post was never taken down.
Oh, it was never taken down?
It was never taken down, and I forgot that I did not tell you that.
Do you think that you were intentionally
I was placated. I was placated. Okay. And here's the thing. I said very bluntly, I'm a free market capitalist and I don't like tariffs. And so this is not about me supporting Trump. But I do think that I had, like the majority of our target audience will support Trump. And I think we should take this down. And I think everybody I work with is far left, and they just left it up.
Which I also am not going to hint at or reveal where you work, but I think it's fair to say that the target customer that your industry is looking to get business from is on the right. Yeah. And it's interesting to me that a company that is full of leftists don't see that. Like, and I'm not even like, there's no judgment in the difference in political opinion, but like you as a business person should be smart enough to realize who your audience is and work with that. Like, no matter if you agree with it or not.
And I think you'll agree with me here, but my thought is if I ran my own business, I think I would probably just have across the board rule that we're not talking about this. Because I think the people who show up to do good work and put their heads down and that's what they're there for should be allowed to do that no matter who they are. And the idea that it just gets muddled, it's just kind of absurd to me. But I think you're right that the louder people, whomever they may be, are going to be loud regardless.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, going back to that anecdote about the coworker I have, that person left their previous job. It sounds like to me because they were outnumbered politically and were being given a really hard time about it.
Wow.
Now, I feel like I understand. Okay, like there's a lot of factors here. There's the state we live in. There's the like culture and county that we live in. This could be different. If you told the same story in many parts of the country, it could be completely different. I think for our part of the country where we are, what makes sense to me is that you have one person who is happy to keep this stuff private, and you have many people who are aggressive. Speaking for myself in my own place of work, I know that one side has no problem stating their opinion at work in front of everybody at work meetings. Interesting choice, not one I would make. And I guess I don't know where I'm going with that, but like it's wild to me to see it so one-sided, the type of person who cares about not bringing politics into the mix or offending anybody, and the side that almost invariably does.
Yeah, and like I know that I'd be the one to get in trouble in a meeting where, you know, one of my colleagues says everything is terrible and I think we know that Trump's the reason, and somebody else agrees, and I can't say I don't like him either, but why don't you just shut the fuck up? And I'd be the one that got in trouble. You know?
And sub any politician's name in there. It doesn't oh, anyway, we are so far off the topic. So do we think that the Democrats would even be open to a suggestion like this?
The reason,
about like not using certain words and like trying to like move away from woke?
I think you make the full circle point by saying that the loudest people are never going to be quieter, because we have Mandami running for mayor of New York, and he is openly saying that we are going to close down all the prisons. And when you just talked about
fucking what with them?
When you talk about involuntary confinement, I feel like he's a guy who wants to elevate the rights of criminals over the rights of people who have done nothing wrong.
And it raises the question, to me at least, like, is that what he wants, or is he just like playing to this naive, I'm gonna get real stereotypical here and say like that there's this chubby, gender fluid, green-haired, acne-pocked, screaming person with BO and an armpit crystal who is just holding a sign about down with for-profit prisons. I happen to agree that for-profit prisons are like a cancer upon society, but like, is he just trying to get their vote by saying that? Can he possibly really want that? Is it something where he feels like he can get rid of prisons and dump them on like lower income people's doorstep? It's like a problem he won't have to deal with, so like let's get votes?
Well, and maybe that's it. Maybe and I had never really thought about this before because it's something I've been struggling to wrap my mind around. The whole, like, let's get rid of bail. You know,
is that part of his platform?
Oh, they've already done that, I think, in New York. I think they've been releasing people, you know, who've been violent. And that's why the whole knockout game, when people were getting injured because, you know, folks were targeted and somebody who was violent would hit somebody and really, really hurt them. Like the actor Rick Moranis got hurt, and then the person who hit him was released without bond.
Is he okay?
Rick Moranis got really messed up for a while, but he's
and it was like a knockout challenge.
Yeah, so now he's doing better because I think he's going to return to acting.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a Ghostbuster sequel or something like that. We have to look that up. We keep forgetting what it is.
Yeah, but I think he actually was in a coma for a while. So, yeah.
Fuck that person.
I know. And really, like, there was an old lady who had represented a bunch of actors and singers for years and who was killed in the knockout game. and I think was a Holocaust survivor.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it's like, and then these people just get released again. There's no justice, and I doubt they're ever charged. It's just it's chaos.
Even if they are charged, like, they've proven that they're unstable and a danger to the people around them. So even if they're just waiting for a trial date, like, that could be 6 months, that could be a year, it could be whatever. But
here's my question, like, what is the incentive of more criminals on the street?
I agree with you. What is the incentive? Which makes me think, like, if there's no money to be made, which you can't tell me that a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or anybody isn't tempted by greed.
Yeah.
So I feel like in politics,
money?
Where's the money is always your answer. Where is the money in shutting down prisons?
Well, and my only thought too was, can you create chaos to then use it to usher in an authoritarian state? Because you need to bring order.
It's where is the power?
And the other thought was, if you have so many more criminals on the street, and there's more gun crime, can you then use it to control guns? So it could be a twofold path to create chaos, to then say, I'm Chancellor Sutler and I'll bring order.
I don't understand that reference.
V for Vendetta.
Oh, okay.
So basically, there's a person that I couldn't suffer anymore who was on my Facebook, who was just arguing for anarchy. And I said, anarchy creates chaos, which then ushers in the state.
It's a power vacuum.
And he said that we could get rid of authoritarianism in Russia and China if we simply convinced the people to ignore the government. And I said, good luck ignoring Russia and China when we don't have a central government. It's the most retarded thing I've ever heard. So I hate anarchy as much as I hate statism.
I think anarchy is the same as statism. You just have 1,000 bosses instead of one. Yeah. Everyone's in charge.
Yeah.
Everyone's
and
in
you
charge.
never know what anybody's going to do.
Yeah, that's a terrifying thought. I don't think we're spread. I think the global population is too high for anarchy. Maybe if we were like 1/10 of what we are, perhaps it could work. But we'd have to be way more spread out and like not social animals.
If everyone agreed to listen to Hannah, it would be fine.
I don't listen. As much as the idea is intriguing, I don't think I should be in charge.
I'll do it.
I think I would vote for you. Be the first first lady with my lady as the first lady.
It's a lot of ladies. I like it.
I like it too.
In keeping with this topic of all this crazy change, that could potentially try to trick people who might be considering voting Democrat, there was another article from Fortune magazine wherein Bernie Sanders is supporting Trump.
Wait, record scratch, what?
Yeah. And why would Bernie Sanders support Trump?
Why the fuck indeed?
Because he's doing something leftist. That's why. So, Trump has a plan to turn multi-billion-dollar semiconductor subsidies that are going toward the chips for vehicles and, I guess, for vehicles and phones, into investments in government equity stakes in private companies.
Can you please translate for somebody who has no business savvy?
So, there are subsidies for the creation of these chips. Already,
government monies that go towards these companies to produce the chips.
Our money.
Taxpayer money.
So already, I'm against it. Subsidies of any kind are stupid and wrong. And farmers are no different. So no subsidies for anyone. And then he wants to take our money that's already being invested in something we shouldn't be invested in and basically use any revenue that is generated from that to buy up equity stakes in private companies, which means the government is then taking ownership in private companies with our money.
So, I'm sorry. If this is a solid investment, which it would be, because why else is the government interested in it? I am not able to afford investing in it myself as a private citizen because my money is going to the government, which then uses those dollars that I've given them to buy interest in it themselves.
Yes. This is...
So my opportunity to participate in the free market is being usurped by the people I voted in.
And now the government is taking ownership of private companies with our money. So basically, this is what we call fascism. And it's hilarious to me, twofold. People said Trump would be a fascist, and people don't know that fascism's leftism. So they're like, we thought Bernie Sanders was a progressive. He is. They're both leftists, and they can both burn in hell as far as I'm concerned.
So I think we should bring up a topic that is near and dear to your heart, because here we are, like, very close to this. Explain for the folks at home, and for me, for the millionth time, the difference between fascism and communism.
Okay.
Because, as I think most of us have been told, fascism is a far-right Nazi-esque idea, and communism is a far-left Leninist Marxist idea.
And what I will always ask the people who think that fascism is to the right, what was the Nazi Party? What did it stand for?
National Socialist Party.
National Socialist Workers' Party.
Thank you.
The German National Socialist Workers' Party. And what people also forget is that fascism is when you take ownership of companies, but you leave just enough of it private so that you have something to blame when the economy starts its downturn. And that's what Hitler did. So he would dip his toe in it, and then you'd say, oh no, things are bad, I guess I need more power.
You just swoop in and rescue.
So in my humble opinion, and nobody else that I know of will tell you this, and in fact I think a lot of my favorite economists say this in reverse, but I believe that fascism is a stepping stone to socialism and communism. So the people vote for their fascist leader, they vote for a Hitler, and then maybe the elections aren't really free anymore, but they keep voting for them. And my favorite political philosopher, Ayn Rand, would say that the only difference between communism and socialism is the difference between suicide and murder. That you vote in these people, that you made the choice to vote them in and give them the power that they get. So in my humble opinion, it's the fascist leadership first. You take little baby equity stakes, and then you own parts of large, multimedia. You own Comcast or a stake in Comcast like the government does. And then you own, you can't make the chips without us, and you can't, you can't create industry without us now. Like, we're in everything. We stick our fingers in everything. And then when they're ready and they have enough power, they just take it all.
So I think you explained it to me one time when we talked about this as fascism is like the illusion of choice. You think you're making the decisions. You think you have options. You think you have $100 to go to the grocery store and choose how you spend it and choose which companies to support. But actually you're being fed misinformation about the actual level of privatization these companies have or which ones offer the better products.
And when you think about what happened when the car companies needed to be bailed out, the idea of you can help us by buying a Chevy Volt.
Right. So this is a subject I was going to bring this up too. As Michiganders and Metro Detroiters, this is very near and dear to our hearts. The stereotype of this being Motor City. You cannot find a person who doesn't have 1, 2, or 3 family members, maybe their entire family, that has made their living in the auto industry. We are all touched by it. And when we had to, I say we because that's how it feels as somebody who lives in Michigan, when we had to get bailed out by the government, when the big three were failing to the point that the government had to step in, it was a huge deal.
Yeah, and maybe it would be one thing if this was all voluntary and they said, Hannah, would you like to take a certain amount of your money and we, can basically put it toward these semiconductors and chips and things like that. And if you make money off of it, you keep a portion and we take the other portion and then it goes into private equity and then you can make money off of that too. But it's not voluntary. You're not going to really...
I was going to say, like, as a businessman, if there are 5 of us and we're all getting offered this deal and I'm the only one who doesn't take it, like, can I even be competitive with the other 4 anymore? Like, even if you understand the slippery slope that's at hand and the idea of, like, the government poisoning the free market, even if you know that and see it for what it is, how could you keep up? Like, it's really the choice between selling your soul to the devil and going out of business for good.
And you made a good point earlier, too, about following the money, like that's going to be the answer everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I always find it interesting when there's a congressional hearing about breaking up a monopoly, because it's never a government-created monopoly, but it always is their competition.
Okay.
It's usually, we're going to go after Time Warner because we're invested in Comcast. Or,
shit.
Is
that real?
Yeah, it's always, and like I just saw that Google and Meta just did some sort of deal together, and it's like, I'd be interested if all of a sudden you have people on both sides of the aisle going after Mark Zuckerberg again, or, they say that this needs to be broken up because they're not invested in it.
I will say those are 2 enormous American giants, and the idea of them working together doesn't necessarily, like, upset me or worry me, but it's interesting, and I feel like I need to know more about that.
Yeah, and to me it seemed like they were investing in something together that, like, will benefit both companies and that everyone needs, and I didn't really see it being something that would be hurtful to anyone else, but I'd still be interested to see what the government does with it. Because if they feel like they could profit off of it, maybe they're just going to be like, no, you're getting too big. You're doing these things together and you have too much power.
And I realized that, like, Elon Musk is kind of a garbage person and doesn't have the greatest moral compass and has some really terrible ideas about, like, government in general and, like, the way to, like, lead a country in industry even. Like, I don't think he's a great person. But I like the idea that he is outside of government threat a little bit. Like, obviously the government could shut him down anytime. Mm-hmm. Like, he can't necessarily win a legal battle with them, but he can outspend them. And I find some comfort in that because I don't know how many people can say that anymore.
What I think is really interesting and kind of sad lately about Elon Musk is that I think that he's obviously, like, a smart person, and he's innovative.
An interesting thinker.
He's innovative, and he's an idea person. He has big ideas. However, I think he's really, really naive when it comes to politics. I think he threw himself at Trump because he really thought Trump would be the change maker that he wanted. And now they say he's buddying up to J.D. Vance to do the same thing. And it's like,
of all the people who can't help him in his pursuit of power, I think J.D. Vance must be number 1.
Yeah, J.D. Vance is the only Republican politician right now being outpolled by both Pete Buttigieg and Gavin Newsom. And that gives me hope that MAGA will leave with Trump. And that's what needs to happen.
I have zero. You know what? I would have said the same thing about Biden, pre-2020 or whatever the fuck it was. The idea that they propped him up as a presidential candidate, I laughed probably as much as I laughed like 30 seconds ago. Like, Joe fucking Biden, are you serious? And look where we are.
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen.
Vance 2028. I see it.
Yeah, and it's really going to piss me off if it happens. I think, honestly, and I know people don't like him, and there are things about him I don't like, but I think the person to save us is Marco Rubio. I really do.
I like what I hear about him so far.
And I know that back in Florida, he wasn't pro-gun enough, that he was, like, wishy-washy and stuff in Miami. Mm-hmm. But I think that he is the Reagan-esque speaker. He has the Cuban American understanding of why Cuba's bad and why America is good and why this is the place for immigrants to change their lives. And I think he's the most foreign policy minded, in a good way, person that I've seen in a long time. I think he'd have the understanding that we would need in a Reagan.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a part of me that is still like hurt by what the left did to me, like a bad boyfriend or something. Like, I want to believe in them. I don't think they're the villains that we sometimes maybe portray them to be. The same way that the Republican Party has a lot of losers in it right now, and a lot of scary people. But there's a Marco Rubio, right? There's a silver lining. There's somebody who remembers what a Republican was supposed to have been this whole time. Who is that person on the other side of the aisle? Like, I know there's somebody who believes in what a Democrat used to be.
You know who I think should run for president and represent?
Who's that?
I think Bill Maher should run for president.
He seems like he's kind of like woken up.
Yeah, and I think he understands what a Democrat used to be. I think he knows who JFK was for the Democrats.
Right, so we need the ghost of JFK versus Mittens or Marco Rubio. And that would be, I would probably cry in the voting booth, because that would be a fight I would believe in. Like, I would be spoiled for choice there.
And here's the thing. I would love to see somebody like Rand Paul be supported by Americans, but he won't be. I don't know what it is. Curly Ron Paul doesn't have the charisma or something, or people don't like that, he's a libertarian, because that's what he really is, or whatever. People won't vote for Tom Massie either. It's like, where's the charismatic speaker? That's what you need at the top of the ticket anyway.
And this is way off topic, but here I go. I feel like what the best leader is reluctant leader, right?
Yeah.
Like the saying says or whatever. I think that the self-promotion and the charisma that you need to come to the top of the pile creates psychopathic, or at least narcissistic, histrionic, unsavory people. So the ambition it takes to get to the top almost like pre-qualifies you to be selfish and like a little bit detached from human empathy and the human American experience.
And maybe what is interesting about Ronald Reagan, I'm wearing a Ronald Reagan shirt right now, and I'm on the topic, and plus
it says "I smell commies" on it.
She got it for me. The thing that is different from like Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush is like Ronald Reagan was a good speaker. George W. Bush had his Bushisms and his messing up and everything. I think both of those men actually did love America.
Yeah.
But I think what makes Reagan is that instead of promoting himself like Trump does or like Obama did, Reagan promoted America. And Reagan talked down, he had the balls to talk down about Democrats. He was able to make jokes and have it be like a cute little like jest, And so he wasn't mean like Trump is mean, but he would poke fun and have it come off as charming. But he would never like self-promote. He would talk about how great our country is.
I'm not questioning if somebody knows about Reagan's like career in life, it's you. However, he was a Hollywood star, which makes me think that he was self-promoting. You don't get to the top of the pile by being like meek and mild and unassuming. So to come to the top of the pile in Hollywood and then the top of the pile in politics, I think there must have been an element of extreme self-promotion that comes off as humility.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I think you have to have the confidence, but you can't have it come off as...
It's an uber slick game, which might make him crazier than anybody else.
Yeah, it really could. But, it's something that, like, Romney couldn't do. He couldn't promote himself. And I think he did love America, but he couldn't... For sure. He couldn't say here's why you suck, Obama. Because he was a good Christian.
Yeah, I think there are many examples of people who would be the best for the job that don't have the ambition or the charisma or the cutthroat attitude that actually gets them the job, which is too bad. Really, honestly, we all lose.
Yeah, America doesn't want the person who is capable and cares about this country more than themselves. They want somebody flashy. And that's where we are.
Which is kind of heartbreaking. And I think, if it's okay to say, I think it's only going to get worse. I think when you see, like, I'm about to sound really old here, but when you see, like, TikTok culture and, like, Gen Z, sort of this, and it's not necessarily always a bad thing, but, like instant gratification, sort of self-absorbed, self-promoting. Everyone's an influencer. Everyone's chasing followers and like, online recognition and stuff. I think we're promoting an attitude of self-consumption and self-promotion.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways in everyday life that can be harmless enough, but it doesn't speak well for our political health, I don't think. Well, I think it's only going to get worse as these people age into a time in their life where they can hold a public office.
You have a great point, because it wasn't something that we were planning on talking about, but we saw an article today. I think it was 2.8 million Americans now identify as trans. And I was thinking, wow, you really can't trump that if you're wanting to be special. And this is something that, like, our culture has become really histrionic and really, like, attention-seeking. And for everybody who does think they're trans, like, I would want the best for them, and I'd want them to, get whatever help they need and to be as happy as they can be. But how many people are riding the coattails of what they feel like is a movement that can get them attention or fame or whatever they're seeking? And that to me is really sad, because I don't think it's going to help people that aren't going through something that really needs to be addressed, if they're just, wanting, I don't know, like, sweet taste in the mouth, something quick that gets them attention.
This isn't new, right? Everybody wants to be special, and everybody wants attention, and even, like, shy people want to be catered to or taken care of to some extent, I would think. And we're just encouraging that, like, itch, that want, that need, and we're legitimizing it. Whereas I think in the past it was sort of like, yeah, you feel that way, but you should grow up and recognize that the world isn't about you, and find a way to find fulfillment outside of other people giving you accolades or whatever. Yeah. And I am a little worried about what the future of our country looks like in a casual, like, person-to-person way if we're encouraging that. But the implications for politics is, like, astoundingly bad.
Yeah, it really is. Especially, I started to get really scared when Trump got the nomination for that reason.
Because, the first time or the second time?
The first time. Because, well, really the second time too, of course. But when I saw what was probably 14 capable Republicans on a stage, maybe 13. And Trump getting that nomination, to me it said, America likes the guy who's boisterous, they like the bully, they don't care about substance anymore.
They don't care about substance, and I was like, I didn't necessarily have a dog in that fight at that time, but I was really sad for the people who showed up to play ball. They played by the rules. They did the process that we've done for hundreds of years in America. They showed up for debates and discussion, and they played ball. They did it the right way. And whether or not they were the best person for the job, they respected the system that we've always done this by. And here's somebody who didn't even condescend to come to debates or discussions. He didn't play by the rules at all. It was so arrogant and so, like, dismissive, and there's no other word for it than arrogant. And then he got the goddamn fucking nomination.
And he was the only one.
It works.
The only one on that stage who would not commit to not running third party. He lost. He was the only one that would not
He
commit.
was perfectly happy to tank the party and split the vote.
Yeah, because he cares more about himself.
Absolutely. All he cared about was winning. And I don't think there's, like, to get back to our point here, because I know we're rambling, like, I don't think there's a lack of people who love America, or at least, sadly, the idea of what America used to be. Like, who believe in the American dream and what America could be and her potential and her spirit and what she was supposed to always have been. I think there's plenty of people who understand that and who are passionate about it and believe in it. But can you find somebody who feels that way and also has the wherewithal to rise to the top of the pile and not have that contaminated by self-glorification?
Yeah, and it really... I have to impress upon you this point. That as much as our politicians are corrupt and they do not care about us, until Americans start caring about values and issues again instead of about who seems flashy, we're lost.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time to be an American. I think things are on the edge of changing, if not already irrevocably changed. And the next 10, 15 years, I think, are going to be extremely telling about what our country is going to be. All right, guys, we have talked a lot in a meandering sort of way, and let's wrap this up and give you a poll.
So the poll question is, what is your most important deciding factor in the voting booth?
Our choices are going to be the perceived popularity of the candidate, aka like the likelihood that they would be elected or their electability.
The candidate's party affiliation.
Or finally, the candidate's personal values, their platform, what they specifically as individuals are bringing to the table.
There's a right answer.
We're not going to tell you what it is. We're curious what it is because in the secrecy of the voting booth, I'll be honest, sometimes through my life, it has been simply which party I want to see in office. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the person's personal values or platforms. And there have been times where I've changed my vote based on who I think was most likely to win.
Well, yeah, she has a good point. I voted for Trump last time and I hate his guts, so.
Your guys' poll answers are 100% anonymous. We have zero way of tracking them. So if you aren't a Spotify listener, you can just type your answer in the comments. Obviously, that won't be anonymous. You can email us if you want to.
And I have now started adding the poll to YouTube if you're a YouTube listener.
Okay, so there are a lot of ways you guys can chime in. Let us know what you're thinking. Ash, what's our email address?
It's red, white, and by, no ampersand, just the word and, @gmail.com.
So write in if you feel like giving us your opinion on this episode that we just did. Let us know what you're thinking. We have a lot going on, like we said at the top of the show, but we are committed to giving you, at the very least, a bi-weekly, no pun intended, bi-weekly episode. We would love to get back to weekly, and we're going to be seeing you guys real soon.
All right. Thanks for listening to Red, White, and By.
Bye.
Bye.